Welcome to the YouTube channel PCMB Tutorials. Today we are going to learn class 9th chemistry and chapter is periodic classification. This is our part 4. In previous parts we have learned the discovery of Dobereiner, Newland and Lothermeyer. Today now see some quiet stories and then we'll move towards the discovery of Mendeleev. So our first story is taunts written to haunt these coffers. Return to haunt the scoffers. Many pages in the history of science are strewn with instances of those who had dared to think differently and had to face the consequences. Some, like Copernicus, paid for it with his life. Galileo was put behind bars, but most, like Newton, Newlands, and Mendeleev, are scoffed at the taunted. One of the true hallmarks of a scientist is his ability to continue to hold fast to his convictions, no matter what others said or did. Thankfully for the god of science, Newlands and Mendeleev dared to be different. John Newlands was an industrial chemist from London who had noticed for the first time that a table of elements arranged by order of atomic weights showed a pattern in which every eighth element was a repetition of the first, much like the eighth note of the octave of music. Such a theory was too much for even a competent physicist like George Foster, who laughed at the idea at a meeting of distinguished scientists. He suggested sarcastically that a classification of elements in alphabetical order would serve the purpose just as well. Little he did realize that he would have had to eat his order would have to eat his words soon. While Newlands got recognition for his work, Foster was haunted by the ignominy of being the scoffer in chief and the villain of the piece whenever this instance was referred to. Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev was another person who remained firm about his theory. With his daring character, he did the most unthinkable. He followed Newland's octave periodicity but left some slots vacant for the elements which were yet to be discovered because he believed so. Everyone in Europe thought he was crazy. Some even considered him to be a mystic because of the appearance, but it is the unconventional scientist who had the last laugh. In fact, the new insights to go into the secrets of nature have been found through such creative, unconventional thinking against the myths and popular beliefs. You need courage and conviction, which these scientists had. Now, Mendeleev, the Siberian magician. Mendeleev, the Siberian magician. We are going to learn about him first. What is his life story? So, the father of the periodic table. Mendeleev is called the father of the periodic table. Living in Siberia can have a sobering effect on a person. This cold and desolate wilderness in Russia served as an open prison for those serving for sentences. It was one such political prisoner who taught science to the grandson of the first newspaper publisher in Siberia. The grandson enjoyed playing a game of cards called patience, similar to the game of solitaire installed on computer systems. This youngest son among 17 children was destined to become the father of the periodic table. The person is none other than Dmitry Iv- Ivanovich Mendeleev, the magician who brought order to the chaotic maze of elements that were discovered by then. He was a flamboyant individual of principle and courage, unafraid of skeptics or scoffers. He was also the first scientist from Russia to be recognized by the rest of Europe. Mendeleev completed his graduation from the University of St. Petersburg in 1855. After graduation, he sent out for the France and Germany to pursue further studies in chemistry. He returned to St. Petersburg in 1861 and began teaching at the university. During this period, he pondered over what some scientists were speculating about. The atomic weights might be related to some similarities in characteristics among the elements. At about the same time, John Newlands came out with his findings that if the elements were arranged in an increasing order of atomic weights, they showed a pattern in which every eighth element was a kind of repetition of the first. Newland's table had some flaws, but it presented a useful pattern. Mendeleev was the one who took the idea to its most logical conclusion. He played the game of patience with all the known elements. He marked their symbols, atomic weights, and unique properties on cards and arranged them in groups. He found that when the elements were lined up in the order of increasing atomic weight, similar characteristics would occur at regular intervals. He found that hydrogen, fluorine, and chlorine occupied the first, ninth, and 17th position in his list, much like Newland's octaves. And interestingly, these elements shared similar properties. He then tried listing all the groups with similar properties in the same vertical column and worked out a table with atomic weights of elements increasing from left to right. He found that after all the elements he knew, about 64 were placed in this order where there are still a few slots vacant. He then made a daring move. He left them empty but described the properties of these missing elements. Much to his delight, some of the missing elements were discovered as he had predicted. When he was still alive, the periodic table as we now know it, had to wait a long time for completion, but the credit for this periodic table truly belongs to the magician from Siberia. Now, our topic is from fourth main discovery, that is periodic classification. Periodic classification by Mendeleev. With the failures of many attempts, there was a chaotic maze in the arrangement of the elements. An end to this chaotic mess of elements was put by Mendeleev in the year 1869. Dmitry Mendeleev, an eminent scientist, after a thorough study of the elements and their properties, proposed a periodic law. The Mendeleev's classification can be studied in some headings. First was the basis for periodic classification. Basis for periodic classification. First one was similarity in chemical properties of the elements, and second one was increasing order of the atomic weights. Second was Mendeleev's periodic law. Mendeleev's periodic law. The physical and chemical properties of the elements are periodic functions of their atomic weights. Now if we have to understand this law, it is like if the elements are arranged in the increasing order of their atomic weights, then the elements with similar properties get repeated at regular intervals. Sorry. He also worked out an easy table known as the Mendeleev's periodic table. Third was Mendeleev's periodic table. Mendeleev's periodic table. Now, a tabular chart representing a systematic arrangement of elements in groups and periods in the order of their increasing atomic weights is called Mendeleev's periodic table. His original version of 1869 was like he arranged the periodic table according the groups and periods, and he left some spaces in between because he predicted that some elements would be at their places. Now we will learn the description of Mendeleev's periodic table. What are the groups, what are the periods, and what are the gaps for undiscovered elements. Also, we will learn achievements of Mendeleev's periodic table. Then we will learn drawbacks of Mendeleev's periodic table. All we will learn in part 5. Till that, I hope you've understood this. Part 4. For any queries and doubt, you can join the Telegram link given in the description of this video. Like, this is the foundation of class 9th. We have covered the foundation of class 7th and 8th too. The links are given in the description. Please go and check through it. I hope you've understood till this. Thank you for watching. Let's meet in next part.